Right, shalom family, shalom, shalom. Let's see if we can get a discussion going. Anyone who wants to come in a discussion today, it's evening, morning, night, afternoon, wherever you are. So shalom to you. I say shalom. If you can hear my mic, just please, I beg you, brothers and sisters, if you hear my mic, just give me a number 1, just so I know the mic is clear. If you hear me well, just give me a number 1, just so I know the mic is clear. Shalom to you all. Right, okay, I got you now. Thank you, brother Marvin, I suspect, yeah? Jerry, oh yeah, shalom to you. Marvin, shalom to you. Marissa, shalom to you. Terry Davis, shalom to you. Shalom all of you. Shalom to all your families. Yeah, to all your families. I'm gonna try and switch on my camera and let's see if we can get something as a discussion going. I was trying to look for some controversial intro. I just wasn't sure what to put on, so I'm gonna try, see if I can see if I can find anything that brings in the title a little bit more into context. Yeah, let me take like creation versus evolution, something like that. Yeah, let's go with this kind of thing here. Hey, watch this one yet, but I'm gonna put like a little intro up on the screen. I'm not sure if I've listened to this yet.
Matt Ridley wrote this book, The Genome. Is this a debate in science?
All right, I'm just gonna put this up anyway. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna put this up for education purposes, just YouTube. So that might just be an intro for us. It's about, this one is like, creationist, evolutionist debate. But then our title really is If the Bible Was a Lie. So the reason I want to put this video up is because this is one perspective that this, it's funny. Let's call them non-believers in the Bible. This is one of the aspects of the reasons why some people don't believe in the Bible. It's because they just don't want to believe that there's a creator. All right. And they want to, I don't know, they want to go and make up their own theory or create their own truth about how humans and all life form got onto the earth and create a new direction for the same life form to continue down that path. So I'm just gonna play some of this here. I probably suspect this was of one of the what's it called, the British channels, but let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna play that in the meantime, and let's see if people come in to the discussion, and if there's people who want to come on the panel and to give us their views regarding this title, even to disagree with the Bible or to critique what we're teaching, stuff like that, they're more than welcome. So in the background of this title is the idea that we just continued from yesterday and maybe the day before, which is sort of like based on why people attack the Bible. That's number 1. And then why some people attack the Bible, yet they want to hold on to the Bible. They want to use it when it suits them, but when it don't, they're gonna throw it away. And then never mind the idea that some other groups out there want to own the Bible, which is a national constitution history of a different nation entirely. They want to own the book, but they don't understand the book. You see, So at the end of the day, all it comes down to is they are treating the Bible like it's a lie. Because if you get one thing wrong in the Bible, you're basically rubbishing the whole thing. It's the same for national laws and national constitutions and contracts and covenants and agreements and stuff like that. So we're going in light because we're going in light, but it's just a discussion. So this is what I do. If I was outside on the streets, I discuss with people. If I was in my house with somebody who wants to talk, I talk to the same things to them. So this is what this is about. So there's no real angle besides sort of like what I put out there already. So but it could be an open discussion. Let's see who comes in and who wants to say something about that. All right. Okay. So let's play this one. And
is it time for all religions to accept evolution?
I'm gonna try and get this this video up on the screen now. So let me try and do that. The other problem I have is while I'm showing this window, I'm still trying to work out how to what's it called now? How to do other things on the same computer, but I don't know if that's gonna be easy and possible. So anyway, let me play this video, and that keeps us as an intro to this session. So shalom to all you family out there. Hit the like buttons, hit the share, subscribe and notification button at the top right hand corner, and that lets you know when a live stream or videos are posted. And please share and let people come in and enjoy whatever we're going to be blessed with today. In the name of the Most High Creator, Iye Asher Iye. So okay, let's go.
That's fact. Matt Ridley wrote this book, The Genome. Is this a debate in science at all?
No, it's not. It's quite clear now to scientists because the evidence has got stronger.
Is it time for all religions to accept evolution as fact? Matt Ridley wrote this book, The Genome. Is this a debate in science at all?
No, it's not. It's quite clear now to scientists because the evidence has got stronger and stronger as the years gone by. We've now got the genetic evidence as well as the evidence from fossils and other things. We've sequenced the genome of Neanderthal man and we can clearly see how it's related to us and related to the chimpanzee and so on. And we can see that we crossbred with it about 40,000 years ago. We can read in the genes exactly the whole history of life.
So Greg Haslam, you believe the Earth is less than 10,000 years old, for example. We've got all this evidence of not just geology, but comparative anatomy, geographic distribution, why some animals are there and related to animals there, other parts of the world, some animals are there and related to animals there. The fossil record, paleontology, you name it, all these disciplines, and now the genome, and yet still you reject evolution. Why?
Well, because information doesn't arise from dead matter. Information requires a designer, and the complexity of a single human cell contains as many letters as 500 volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica, which means that all the letters and spaces are in the right sequence in those volumes, and they are in the human cell. The Encyclopedia Britannica was printed. The human cell shows every evidence of absolutely exquisite design. And as for common features of DNA, one would expect that, because the designer would have created information that would be not only for the design of different expressions of human beings, but also of all of the animals. The fact is that it's very difficult to explain how even the first living cell came into being.
Well, that's not what evolution is about. It's about the process. It's not about the origin.
The DNA to code the kinds that God created is said in Genesis to be in their seed. But there are limits to the change.
Spot the bit in Genesis where DNA is mentioned.
Each with its seed. It's shorthand, translatable into any culture to understand.
Okay, we're beyond the...
But that's like reading
we're beyond the validity of
but the limits of change.
To the end.
The limits of change are the problem.
We're beyond the validity of the theory. Would anything...
have a tree of life.
Greg,
there's trees of life.
Would anything convince you? Would anything convince
Science would convince me. But nobody's ever been able to create new information from the seed.
New information. Robert Asher. Wait. Robert Asher, new information. Nonsense.
Yeah, no, it's true nonsense. This notion that natural processes cannot create information. You know, one example that I discuss in my book, and I'm sitting next to Steve Jones, of course, has discussed it in a lot more books than I have, is, you know, a trichromatic vision in mammals, right? So the fact is, and I don't know, are you aware of anything about the basis for your perception of red,
But
greens,
that
and blues?
information would have already been
Right. Okay,
somewhere.
so you're not aware of the basics about red, greens, and blues. So you have 3 opsin genes, 2 of which are on one of your sex chromosomes, and 1 of which is on an autosome. And the fact is that one of those genes resulted from a duplication event that we share with other opsin genes that we can actually find in the order of primates. And all you need is one single nucleotide polymorphism. One SNP is what it's called. And that changes your sensitivity from one of these wavelengths to another. And the fact that you had an additional gene, you know, that had been duplicated, one mutation is all it takes. And then you perceive a subtly different color spectrum. And that is an increase.
To come in here to turn the question round, I cannot see in what way anything that has been said by the scientists on this side of the House in any way diminishes the God I believe in. I cannot see how it tackles the approach that has been common in Christian theology from Augustine of Hippo in the 5th century, right through Aquinas, through the great church fathers, that scientific inquiry is the calling of every Christian to use their brain to the full, that nothing in it does anything to diminish God. On the contrary, the whole point about human evolution that has been outlined here gives me a most wonderful and beautiful account of our solidarity with the rest of the created order.
And yet our difference from the rest of this.
How does that come from? See, where are you going to get the difference from? Okay, because it seems to me that if you, and this is where I think a lot of religious people are very standoffish about Darwin, because strictly speaking, there's nothing to privilege human beings in the Darwinian picture at all. There's just a marginal difference in DNA between us and animals, and the more we study the animals, the closer they look to us. Okay, and so where are you going to keep that idea that we're creating the image and likeness of God from?
From the capacity to love, the capacity for solidarity.
Animals don't have
the
this?
capacity, only in a relatively rudimentary form, yes.
Oh, wow.
But
I
what's the
think you're
problem
very
with that?
prejudiced against
Does
those
God
animals.
not love the animal kingdom as well? The capacity for self-sacrifice, which is also reflected in some aspects of the animal kingdom, but uniquely, not only in humanity but in Christ, and the capacity to conceive God. The capacity to put ourselves in the footprints of other people.
So why do some Christians have such a problem with this?
Well, I think there's 2 points on that. One is it's a very modernist heresy. It implies that you take the scriptures and you treat them just like any other kind of logical positivist text, that it means only one thing. There's no poetics in that.
It's more than that. It's because there's a slander on the character of God here, in the sense that death, destruction, disease, predatory animals are all said to have been the history of life on earth. And it means, therefore, that the picture of the Bible that man was meant to live forever in a perfect world, which the description of Genesis 1 and 2 describes, where there were none of those evils.
But before death?
Before Adam's fall, there were no
death.
evils, no death,
Right.
and never intended to be death. The Bible consistently teaches death entered the world through the rebellion of man, who was the head creature
I'll let you
that
finish
God
in a
had
minute.
made.
I know you're halfway through. Robert, you were coming.
Very, very quickly, life without death is cancer. We need death.
Life without death.
Yes, of
without
course.
death is eternal life. Living in this.
Okay, Martin, you were in full flow.
I was. But I'll just answer that one, because I don't believe that eternal life precludes my natural death on this earth. That's what Christ himself
No, of course it
said.
doesn't. We're all
Now,
going to
hang on,
die here.
But you said I was in full flow. The other point is quite simply that for most of the history of the Christian church, certainly, there hasn't been this problem.
No.
The problem arises when you find religion beginning to be on the back foot. The other problem, of course, is the way in which Darwin and his theories, the theories of evolution, have been turned into a kind of cod science. And I think a lot of perfectly legitimate religious reaction is against the translation of those theories into something crudely deterministic, utterly reductionist, which leads to the kind of version of survival of the fittest that leads you
Which
into
he never
eugenics
says,
and
which is
things
kind
like
of-
that.
which is the-
now, that's a perfectly legitimate thing to object to.
Counterproductive.
But that's
Kind of-
not the serious
So that's
scientific
the
theory that we've
that's
been
the debate
hearing
some
for.
people treat as ignorance versus arrogance.
Yeah,
that sort of
that's
idea.
one way of putting it.
Yeah, Linda.
But I don't entirely agree with Malcolm, because I think that it is true that most Christians didn't have a problem and accepted it, and that's why Darwin's buried in Westminster Abbey with full honours. However, it did pose a challenge in certain very important respects, and one of the most important one was this issue you're talking about anthropocentrism, about was everything actually designed around
Us.
this? Yes, around us. Are we the end point of everything? And that is a really big issue still. And it has meant that for those Christians who do accept scientific evolutionary theory, they have had to adjust their understanding of humanity's place in the whole order of
This
things.
is a big part of why I think people find it so difficult, and why people, not just in religion, but in secular society too, because on the whole, science has humiliated human beings. We've discovered that we have one fewer pair of chromosomes than great apes. We've discovered that we have the same number of genes as a mouse. We're basically the same set of genes as a mouse. We just turn them on in a different
But we have
pattern, a
that
different
frontal
order. Well, big deal. It's just a few more neurons. So there has been, I think, people find that humiliation really quite difficult to adjust to. But in the end, the continuity is very important and is part of it. The other reason why it's become an issue is a specific thing to do with the American Constitution, which is that you're not allowed to teach religion in American schools. So this had to be smuggled in under the science curriculum in America, and it's now spread elsewhere from that. But it's nothing to do with science. It should be religion should be allowed to be religion, and science should be allowed to teach evolution.
Inaya, you were a believer in pure creationism. There's a controversial Turkish creationist called Harun Yaha, I think I've pronounced his name right, who's kind of, in scientific circles, is a total laughingstock. You swallowed it, didn't you? And then you read some science. What happened? And you're a Muslim.
I did. Yes, I started reading Yahya's books in the 1990s, late 1990s, where he was basically repeating the literature from the Christian creationists.
The American right, sort of.
From the American right. It was almost total reproduction of that literature. And I was taken in by Harun Yahya's books because he was quoting from respected scientists like Richard Dawkins, Stephen Jay Gould and others, who appeared to be claiming that the theory of evolution was on its last legs, that they were expressing serious doubts that the diversity we see around us in the animal kingdom could have arisen through the mechanism of natural selection. And I was convinced by this. I thought, look, this is an atheist, materialist conspiracy to undermine faith. It's only when I went to the actual books by Richard Dawkins and Stephen Jay Gould that I realised actually the deception was on the part of Harun Yahya and the creationists. Dawkins, Gould and others were quite firm.
Ken Miller's interesting because he's a religious man and a great...
And Ken Miller wrote a fantastic book called Finding Darwin's God, and he's absolutely a Catholic and a staunch evolutionist. He made clear that, and all these scientists make clear, that evolution, the theory of evolution is in incredibly good health, and the point of a good theory is that it explains facts and it makes predictions. And theory of evolution has passed every test continuously. And if it was false, anyone could come forward with a better theory. If anyone could find, I think JBS Haldane gave the example of a fossil rabbit in the Cambrian. End of story for evolution, but it's never happened. All the fossils we have always found in the right place, the right temporal sequence. That gives the theory of evolution
So why
enormous
are the crustaceans
explanatory
on top
power.
of Everest? But God did not explain to Muhammad about RNA and DNA and allopatric speciation, did he?
He did not. But he gave signs. There are so many signs there in the Quran that Earth is much older than 6,000 or 10,000 or 1 million years.
I don't want you lot to start arguing with each other about the age of the Earth.
No. Matt Ridley, if we're going to give a lot of equal time on the air to all the different views about evolution, then let's give time to the theory that the great spaghetti monster created the Earth 2,000 years ago. Why privilege this one version of...
God isn't prodigal. If he keeps saying, I created man in my image, after my likeness, he wouldn't use words that...
Why did he give man nipples?
Why did he give man?
Nipples.
Nipples. He created man in his image. Man, even women have nipples as well. And... So he created man.
Did God write the Bible?
When you write as a manager, if you ask your secretary, dictate a letter to your secretary, that letter belongs to you. It's the manager's letter. The secretary only typed. the scriptures were written by the inspiration
Right.
of the Holy Spirit through people. So God wrote the Bible.
Right, okay.
I mean, one of the great ironies you might see, and this is something that Thomas Henry Huxley, Darwin's bulldog, pointed out toward the end of his life, was that it was very important that Newton, who was a very God-intoxicated man, came before Darwin, because had it been the other way around, human beings would never have had the ambition to try to understand, the entire cosmos in the mind of God, which is, of course, what, in a sense, science is still very much about. Because Darwin's notion of man is a very diminished notion. It's one where, in a sense, the kind of knowledge that's most relevant to us is the knowledge that's just relevant to adapt and to reproduce in our natural environments, not to find out about the Big Bang or what was happening in the beginning of time or anything like that.
Darwin's view that, understanding biodiversity via natural selection or descendant modification somehow diminishes humanity, I think that's completely off. I mean, there's
his own view of humanity was pretty diminished when it got right down to it.
Well, diminished. I mean, you could be practical and you could recognize the connections that we have with other forms.
In terms of the people who believe in progress, he was one of the most anti-progress people around.
That's Robert's response.
To natural selection makes humanity somehow diminished. That does not follow
you
at
can say
all.
you've got unique dignity, but not that you're unique. That's what you can't
No,
say.
but look, let's put it this way.
But you believe in common descent.
Yes, I'm not the issue here.
But
why do you have a problem with common descent? The fact that
I
we're
don't have
related
a
to
problem with
chimpanzees?
common descent, but I do think that there's an enormous amount of prejudice against young Earth creationists on this matter. And one of the things that happens in
In the
this
same way
debate...
that there's prejudice against a flat Earth.
No. Well, this is a big difference. There are research programs going on.
But you're entitled to believe what you want. They can believe the Earth's 5 minutes old. But saying
It's not entitlement. It's a matter of conducting a scientific research program.
If they think
I
that's
think
the
you need
distance
to
to
take what
LA,
these
let
guys
them
are saying
think
a little
that.
more seriously as far as being proper science is concerned. And one of the things that happens in this debate very often, especially when we do get people on the young Earth creationist side, is all of a sudden evolution becomes this enormously expansive term, right? It basically can be any kind of natural process. It's no longer just Darwin's specific view. It's a whole broad range of things as long as you keep the young Earth creationists out.
Wow. Yeah, that was interesting one. That was interesting one. Let me go to this uncle here. Let me in fact, let me do one thing first. Let me try and get myself one. Let me try and get myself one to the show family first. So shalom to all everyone. Let me try and get myself one to the show. Let me see if this works. Give me a second, family. I beg you. Where do we go here? Filters. What's this here? Shalom to all family. Shalom to you. Just give me a second, I beg you. Okay. Right. Great. So there we go. So yeah, say shalom to you all. Right. Shalom family. Shalom family. Shalom family. I hope you can hear me. Can somebody hear me? Just give me a number 1 again, I beg you. If you can hear me, just give me a number 1. Just so I know my mic is working again, please. I beg you. So I'm not talking to myself, thinking you're hearing me. Just give me a number 1 if you can hear me. Oh, great. Bless. Thanks a lot, family. Thanks a lot. Anthony M, thank you. Marvin L, thank you. Cousin, Brother Cousin Johnson. Ain't heard from you for some time. You all right, family? How are you, brother? You all right? So shalom to all of you. Shalom to all of you. Welcome again on the HIT Hebrew Israelite Truth with your brother Ty. We're just trying to get discussion going, and for those of you who are into the Bible, for or against, it's just to keep sharpening your minds with words and listen to each other and learn whatever we can from each other. So we've been having the last 2 days or week. We've had quite a few discussions with the Kemetic community and what they have concerns about the Bible or culturally around the Bible and being Israel and so on and so forth. So we've had discussions. So I thought it's something we should continue doing in one vein to address some of these questions that is just basically out there that's always coming at the Bible. And not just coming at the Bible, but it's coming at what some people consider to be institutional religion, say so-called, what do you call it, Abrahamic faiths, where it looks like more and more the people on the Abrahamic faith side, they have, and I'm using their words, not particularly mine, is that the people in Abrahamic faith have this view that they already know who their creator is, i.e., they call him God. So in every other, and I'm not saying every other, because I just keep it really simple, because we could go to the East and take Buddhism, take Hinduism, Taoism, go back to Africa, Asia. We could take all kinds of religions. I'm not trying to, downplay their one in this discourse. No, I'm just trying to focus as quickly as I can on the the more prevalent view that people hold, especially in the Western world here. So, but that's why we do a discussion, because it would be nice to hear from people who are of a different mindset and a different faith set. So, like we were talking a couple of days ago, there was a sister on Brother Kalan's show on Titans TV, and she was saying, when you talk to people who have maybe a biblical background or stuff like that, they always want you to, when they talk to you and ask you questions, they always want to put you into their own box. Like, do you have a creator who created you? When you die, are you also going to heaven, or are you going to hell? Do you have angels? Do you have, stuff like that, which is our own narrative. So she says that, people like us, and not derogatorily, she's, just using that language, that people of our own background kind of faith, we always try to put people like them who have a different type of view about how everything is into our own box. So, that needs to be discussed. So if there's people of that kind of mindset, want to hear from you. All right, so we're just following with that theme right now to kind of like analyze all these kind of things, and for me particularly to be able to give answers in defense of the Bible as an Israelite. So that's very important for me. So anyone who's out there who has some views that's against the Bible, or want to add their own perspective in there, like Muslims agree with the Bible on one hand, but then disagree with it in another hand. So we've played a little video about creation and evolution, all right, or evolutionists always try to just get rid of the Bible. As far as evolutionists are concerned, they just want to get rid of the Bible, all right. But I'm not saying all of them, because it's becoming clearer and clearer that there are many thousands of scientists out there who are not even Christian, not even religious, who disagree with the evolutionary model entirely. Even go as far as saying, like, Darwin didn't even know what he was doing, because all the information that we have today, like genome and DNA and genetics and so on and so forth, Darwin never had the opportunity to be able to go into those things and slice it down. So a lot of them are critical about Darwin's work, but evolutionism and atheism is a fast growing religion on the face of the earth, and they can have their religion, but we all need to inspect it. All right, we all need to inspect it. So that's one corner that tries to fight the Bible down, the evolutionists, the atheists, all right, and all the other ones. And then the other corner, even though they're part of the Abrahamic faith, is the Islamic narrative on the Bible. And plus, when I add in there, I always add in the